I knew the sound of my house. The heater clicked softly in the hallway. The glass walls breathed when the wind touched them. The garage hummed below our bedroom where my red Volcray F7 slept under white lights like a trophy I no longer enjoyed. So when my wife slipped out of bed at exactly 3 a.m. for the 17th night in a row, I heard everything. The mattress lifted. Her feet touched the floor. The drawer opened. Then came the careful turn of the garage door handle. My name is Orvian Thale, and before that month, I thought I had a peaceful marriage. My wife, Leora Vey, was quiet, elegant, and impossible to read when she wanted to hide something. She had a calm voice, a perfect smile, and eyes that could make a lie feel ashamed. But lately those eyes had changed. At dinner, she stared past me. When her phone buzzed, she turned the screen down. When I touched her shoulder, she flinched. And every night at 3 a.m., she disappeared into the garage. At first, I told myself it was nothing. People wake up. People need space. Marriage is not permission to search every corner of another person's silence. But trust does not break all at once. It cracks slowly. A late reply. A locked phone. A smile that ends too quickly. A whisper behind a closed door. By the 6th night, I stopped sleeping. By the 10th, I watched the clock. By the 17th, I followed her. I opened the hallway door only a little and looked inside. The garage lights were bright. The red car shone like wet blood. Tool cabinets lined the walls. Security screens blinked blue above the workbench. Leora stood near the car in a champagne-colored silk robe, and she was not alone. A tall man stood in front of her. Broad shoulders, black sleeveless shirt, calm posture. Then he placed both hands on her waist. My world went silent. Leora did not push him away. She looked up at him. He spoke too softly for me to hear. Then she touched his chest. I wanted to storm in. I wanted to shout. I wanted to demand the truth. But something stopped me. Maybe fear. Maybe the old lesson my father gave me before he left my mother. Never ask a question unless you are ready to live with the answer. So I stepped back. Slowly, quietly. 26 minutes later, Leora returned to bed. She smelled faintly of metal, rain, and a perfume I had never bought her. Her hand hovered near my shoulder. Then she pulled it back. That hurt more than the man in the garage. The next morning, she made coffee like nothing had happened. "Do you want toast?" she asked. Toast. After standing in my garage with another man at 3 a.m., my wife asked me if I wanted toast. "Did you sleep well?" she asked. "No." "Bad dream?" "Something like that." For half a second, her face changed. Not guilt. Calculation. Then her phone lit up. The contact name was only one symbol. A black triangle. Leora saw me see it. She flipped the phone over too fast. "Who is that?" I asked. "No one important." "No one important calls with a symbol instead of a name." "It's work." "You don't work in triangles." She placed her mug down. "Orvian, not every locked door is an insult." "No," I said. "But when my wife leaves bed every night and hides her phone, I start wondering what room I'm not allowed to enter." Silence filled the kitchen. "There are things I'm handling," she said. "Please trust me. That is not an answer." "It is the only one I can give." That sentence followed me all day. At 2:41 a.m. the next night, I was already awake. Leora rose at exactly 3:00. This time she stopped at the closet, opened a small gray pouch, and removed a thin black keycard. I waited until she left. Then I checked the home security app. The garage camera was offline, not broken, manually disabled. Only 2 people had administrator access. Me and Leora. I went downstairs without turning on the lights. At the hallway door, I heard voices. Leora spoke first. "We cannot keep doing it here," the man answered, low and controlled. "Then tell him." "No, not yet." "He deserves to know. If he knows too early, everything collapses." "Everything collapses." Then Leora whispered, "I won't let Orvian lose everything because of me." My anger weakened. "Lose everything? Because of her?" The door cracked softly under my hand. Inside, the voices stopped. I ran to the guest bathroom and closed the door without a sound. My reflection stared back at me, tired eyes, wet forehead. A man who built a company on risk analysis but could not analyze his own marriage. That is where people make their first mistake. They confuse suspicion with evidence. Suspicion is a smoke alarm. It tells you something may be wrong. It does not prove where the fire is. I knew that. But by morning, I was no longer a husband. I was an investigator. At 11:18 a.m., I found the first receipt hidden inside a box of brake sensors. No store name, no address, only 3 lines. Private Bay Rental, Aero 3 Aero Access, sound masking panels, medical grade cooling unit. Paid in cash. Medical grade. Leora was not a doctor. She was a behavioral design consultant. She taught people how to communicate before pride destroyed families, companies, and futures. So why did she need a medical grade cooling unit in our garage? That evening, I decided to confront her. Not with shouting, with questions. That is what you are supposed to do when trust begins to crack. Speak from what you observe, not from what you imagine. But when she came home, she was not alone. The man from the garage stepped out of her car. In daylight, he looked even larger. His name, I later learned, was Malcor Wren. Leora handed him the gray pouch. He did not kiss her. He did not smile. He only looked toward the house, straight toward my window. My phone vibrated. Unknown number, 1 message. Stop looking through what you do not understand. Then another message arrived. Your wife is not the only one with secrets. I ran downstairs. By the time I opened the door, Malcor was gone. Leora stood alone in the driveway, rain shining in her hair. I held up my phone. What is this? She looked at the messages. Her face went pale. For the first time in weeks, I saw real fear, not guilt, fear. Where did you get that? She whispered. It came to me. Orvian, listen carefully. Do not respond. Do not call it. Do not send it to anyone. Who is he? She swallowed. Who is he, Leora? She looked past me, toward the garage, and I realized the garage door was rising by itself, slowly. No remote in her hand, no command from my phone. The lights inside flickered once, then turned cold white. Beside the red Volcray sat a black metal case I had never seen before. It was open. Inside were photographs. Not of Leora, not of Malcor, of me. Hundreds of them. Me entering my office, me shaking hands with clients, me asleep in my own bed. Me standing at my mother's grave 3 years ago. On top of the photographs was a sealed envelope. Orvian Thala. I tore it open. There was only 1 sentence inside. At 3 a.m., your wife is trying to save you. Behind me, Leora whispered, I told you it was too soon. Then every light in the house went out. The power returned 1 room at a time. First the kitchen, then the hallway, then the garage. But the silence that followed felt heavier than darkness itself. Leora stood frozen beside the open metal case, her breathing uneven. The white garage lights reflected across the polished floor and the red body of the Volcray F7, making the entire room look unreal, like a memory pretending to be a dream. I stared at the photographs again. There had to be over 200. Some were recent. Others were months old. One showed me entering the elevator at Vatrix Tower during a private investors meeting 6 months earlier. Another captured me jogging near the riverfront before sunrise. One photograph had clearly been taken through the window of a restaurant while I sat alone reviewing contracts. Someone had been watching me for a very long time. What is this? I asked quietly. Neither Leora nor Malcor answered. What is this? I repeated louder. Leora stepped toward me carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. Orvian, please listen before you decide what this means. What it means? I laughed once, dry and cold. My wife disappears every night at 3 in the morning. Strange men stand in my garage. My cameras are disabled. I receive anonymous warnings, and now I discover a collection of surveillance photographs about my own life. My voice echoed off the concrete walls. Do you want to explain what this means? Malcor finally spoke. It means you're in danger. I turned toward him instantly. No, I said. Men who secretly meet married women in garages don't get to speak in mysterious sentences. His expression did not change. That almost made me angrier. Leora moved between us before I could step closer. Please, she whispered. You're making this worse. How long? I asked her. What? How long have you been lying to me? Her eyes watered immediately. That should have softened me. Instead, it made my chest tighten harder, because guilt and fear often look identical. That isn't fair, she said quietly. Fair? I pointed toward the photographs. You lost the right to talk about fairness when you turned our home into a secret operation. She opened her mouth to answer, but her phone vibrated again. The black triangle symbol flashed across the screen. This time I grabbed the phone before she could hide it. Orvian! Too late. A message filled the display. He's starting to remember. Underneath it was a second message. If he recovers everything, none of you will survive the fallout. The air left my lungs. Remember? Recover what? I slowly lifted my eyes toward Leora. What does that mean? She looked terrified now. Not nervous. Terrified. Give me the phone, she whispered. What am I supposed to remember? Not here. Then where? She glanced toward Mailcore. That glance destroyed something inside me, not because it looked romantic, because it looked coordinated, like two people protecting the same secret. That feeling is dangerous. When people already feel betrayed, the brain begins connecting unrelated details into one painful narrative. A delayed answer becomes proof. A nervous glance becomes evidence. Silence becomes confession. I knew that intellectually. But emotions are louder than logic when trust collapses. Mailcore stepped closer. You need to calm down. I shoved him backward. Don't tell me to calm down in my own house. He barely moved from the push. That irritated me even more. Leora grabbed my wrist. Orvian, stop, please. Tell me the truth. I'm trying to. No, you're controlling pieces of it. Rain struck the garage door harder outside. The storm had grown violent. Thunder rolled through the hills surrounding our property. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Leora quietly said the sentence that changed everything again. The accident wasn't random. I stared at her. What accident? The one from 14 months ago. My stomach tightened. The mountain highway, the overturned black SUV, the impact that nearly killed me. I remembered pieces of it. Broken glass, blood running down the steering wheel, doctors telling me I was lucky to survive. But after that, blurred fragments, headaches, missing weeks I could never fully recall. What does that have to do with this? I asked. Leora looked down. Because you were never supposed to survive it. The garage suddenly felt too small. I laughed again, but this time there was fear inside it. What kind of insane conversation is this? You worked with dangerous people, Mailcore said. I run corporate infrastructure investments. You uncovered illegal transfers hidden inside several international energy acquisitions. My pulse stopped. Very few people knew about that audit. I had discovered irregular financial routes shortly before the crash, but the investigation vanished after my recovery period. My company claimed external authorities handled everything. I never questioned it deeply afterward because my memory surrounding that time became fractured, until now. Leora stepped closer again. After the accident, your neurologist warned us about memory. Instability caused by trauma and sleep disruption. Some memories became inaccessible. Others returned incorrectly. I suddenly remembered something small. A hospital room. Leora crying beside my bed. A man standing near the doorway speaking quietly into a phone. Not Mailcore. Someone else. Someone older. Then the memory vanished again. You're lying, I whispered. I wish I were. Then why hide everything from me? Because the people involved believed you remembered more than you actually did. The room tilted slightly. I grabbed the edge of the workbench. Stress does strange things to memory. Under fear, the human brain fills missing pieces with assumptions. That is why eyewitness testimony becomes unreliable during trauma. The mind values emotional survival more than factual precision. I suddenly wondered how many conclusions I had built from fear instead of evidence. But then another thought hit me harder. If this is true, I said slowly, why were you meeting him in secret every night? Leora hesitated. That hesitation hurt. Mailcore answered instead. Because someone inside your company is still watching you. I looked toward him. And you know this how? Because I used to work for them. Silence. Thunder cracked outside again. Leora turned pale. You weren't supposed to tell him that yet. He deserves part of the truth. Part? I snapped. Still only part? Mailcore ignored my anger. There's a data archive hidden somewhere in this house, he said. The people who targeted you think you still know where it is. I don't. We know. Then why am I being watched? Because memory recovery can happen unexpectedly. Leora wiped her eyes. That's why I kept going into the garage. We built a soundproof workspace down here to investigate safely. No phones, no smart devices, no active microphones. I looked around slowly. The cooling unit, The sound masking panels, the disabled cameras. Suddenly everything fit together differently. But one thing still did not. The photographs, I said quietly. Who took them? Neither answered immediately. That terrified me more than shouting would have. Finally, Mailcore walked toward the black case and removed one final photograph, hidden underneath the others. He handed it to me. The image showed me standing outside my office tower 3 weeks earlier. But I wasn't alone. A man stood across the street watching me. Dark coat, silver tie clip, expressionless face. The moment I saw him, pain exploded behind my eyes. A memory slammed into me so hard I nearly collapsed. Rain, screeching tires. That same silver tie clip glowing under dashboard lights. A voice saying, "You should have died in the mountains, Orvian." I stumbled backward. Leora caught my arm instantly. Orvian? I could barely breathe, because I suddenly remembered where I had seen that man before. Not outside my office, not in the mountains, inside the hospital, standing beside my bed the night I woke up after the crash. And in that moment, I realized something far worse than betrayal. Someone had stayed close enough to monitor me even after I survived. Someone who already knew where I lived. Then the garage security monitor turned on by itself. One live camera feed appeared. Front driveway. A black vehicle had stopped outside the house. 3 men stepped out, and one of them wore a silver tie clip. The black vehicle remained motionless outside the house. Rain hammered against the driveway in violent waves while the garage monitor flickered softly above us. One of the men near the gate adjusted his coat and lifted his head slowly toward the security camera. The silver tie clip reflected white light directly into the lens. My chest tightened instantly. "That's him," I whispered. Leora turned toward me. "Are you sure?" "Yes." The memory kept returning in fragments now. Hospital lights, a cold voice, the smell of antiseptic, a shadow standing beside my bed while machines beeped quietly around me. "You should have died in the mountains, Orvian." I grabbed the edge of the workbench harder. The pain behind my eyes intensified. Mailcore immediately moved toward the monitor system and shut off the exterior feed. "We don't have much time." "What do they want from me?" I asked. "The archive," he replied. "I already told you I don't remember where it is." "They think you do." Leora stepped closer to me carefully. "Orvian, you need to listen very carefully now. The company you worked with wasn't only moving money illegally. They were creating false infrastructure contracts across multiple countries." I stared at her. "That's impossible." "It isn't," Mailcore said. "Billions disappeared through ghost energy projects that were never built." I looked between them both. "And you expect me to believe the two of you discovered all this in my garage at 3 in the morning?" Leora's face tightened. "That's not fair." "No," I said coldly. Fair would have been telling. "Me the truth before strange men started appearing outside my house." The words hurt her immediately. I saw it in her eyes. But emotional pain often creates defensive behavior. Instead of clarifying things calmly, people protect themselves emotionally first. Communication collapses because both sides become more focused on survival than understanding. I knew that. But I was exhausted, and exhaustion changes people. Sleep deprivation weakens emotional regulation. Suspicion grows faster. Fear becomes louder. Rational thinking becomes slower. That was exactly what had happened to me over the last month. Leora took a slow breath. "You deserve to be angry," she said quietly. "But right now, anger is distracting you from the real danger." Before I could answer, every light in the garage dimmed briefly. Mailcore looked up instantly. "They're scanning the network." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means they found part of the system." Leora turned pale. "That's impossible." "It shouldn't be," he answered. "But they're closer than we thought." He rushed toward the hidden workstation near the back wall and activated several encrypted screens hidden behind a sliding metal panel. Blue data lines filled the displays instantly. I stared at them. Financial transfers, fake company names, international routing structures, private communication logs. One file was labeled, "Fail Recovery Event." My stomach dropped. "That's me." Leora looked away. I opened the file before either of them could stop me. Inside were hospital reports, memory evaluations, neurological assessments, and surveillance updates. Survivor remains unstable. Memory inconsistency continues. Low risk of complete recall. Then I saw the final line. If subject recovers archive location, Phase 2 may become necessary. What is Phase 2? I asked slowly. Nobody answered. I looked toward Malcor first, then toward Leora. What is Phase 2? Leora's voice almost disappeared. We believe it means another attempt. Another attempt. My blood ran cold. The mountain crash had not been random. It had been planned. I suddenly remembered something else. A black sedan behind me on the mountain road. Headlights growing closer. A sharp impact from behind. Then darkness. The memory slammed into me so hard I nearly collapsed again. Leora caught me before I hit the floor. Easy, she whispered. I pulled away instinctively. Not because I hated her. Because I no longer knew what was real. That is the worst thing secrecy does inside relationships. It destroys emotional certainty. Even love begins to feel suspicious. Outside, thunder shook the windows again. Then came another sound, a metallic click. Malcor froze. They're inside the outer gate! How? Leora asked. They cloned the access frequency. My heartbeat accelerated instantly. The house suddenly felt exposed despite all its luxury and security. I had spent years building success, expensive architecture, smart systems, reinforced gates, digital protection. But fear enters homes through people, not walls. Malcor opened a hidden compartment beneath the workstation and removed several small communication devices. Take this, he said. I'm not part of whatever this is. You already are. He handed one to Leora and another to me. I hesitated before taking it. We need to leave, he continued. No, I said immediately. Both looked at me. This is my house, and staying here could get you killed. I stepped toward him. You still haven't explained who you really are. He held my stare calmly. I used to manage security logistics for Helixara Consortium. The name hit me instantly. Helixara, one of the largest private infrastructure investment groups in the world, and one of our former partners. You worked for them? I helped build the systems they used. And now I'm trying to destroy them. Leora looked toward me carefully. Malcor contacted me 4 months after your accident. Why? Because he discovered someone inside. Helixara believed you copied evidence before the crash. I frowned. What evidence? The archive. Again that word. Again that invisible missing piece in my memory. Malcor activated another screen. This time a video appeared. Security footage. Time-stamped 14 months earlier. I watched myself entering my private office late at night carrying a black storage drive. I opened a hidden compartment behind a bookshelf. Then the video ended. That compartment doesn't exist anymore, I whispered. It was removed after the accident, Leora said. By who? We don't know. The room suddenly felt colder. If someone erased the hiding place after the crash, then somebody had already searched my office, which meant one terrifying possibility remained. They never found what they were looking for. A loud impact echoed from upstairs. All three of us froze. Another impact followed. Front door. Someone was trying to force entry. Leora instinctively grabbed my arm. Fear moved through her body visibly now. For the first time in weeks, nothing about her behavior looked calculated. She looked genuinely terrified. That realization hurt more than betrayal would have, because it meant she may have been protecting me all along. The third impact shattered glass somewhere upstairs. Malcor immediately killed the workstation lights. We move now. He guided us toward the rear section of the garage where the luxury vehicles were parked. Beneath overhead lights, my red Volcray, Leora's silver Ethan X, and behind them, I stopped moving completely. There was another vehicle hidden under a dark cover, one I had never seen before. Malcor pulled the cover away. Black armored body, reinforced tires, no license plate. What is that? Emergency transport. You planned for this? We planned for the possibility. Another crash echoed upstairs. Closer this time, then footsteps. Heavy, measured, inside the house. Leora looked at me desperately. Orvian, please trust me now. Trust. Such a simple word. And yet relationships survive or die because of it. Not blind trust. Earned trust, communicated trust, protected trust. I looked into her eyes carefully. Then I finally noticed something I should have seen weeks ago. She looked exhausted. Not guilty, exhausted. Like someone carrying fear alone for too long. The footsteps above us stopped completely. Silence filled the house. Then the garage elevator activated by itself. Descending, someone upstairs had found the access panel. The elevator numbers began changing slowly. 3, 4, 5. Leora grabbed my hand tightly. The elevator reached the garage level. The elevator doors slid open slowly. The man with the silver tie clip stepped out first. Tall, controlled, expressionless. 2 others followed behind him, wearing dark raincoats still dripping from the storm outside. None of them carried visible weapons. Yet the atmosphere changed instantly the moment they entered the garage. Some people do not need violence to create fear. Authority alone can feel dangerous when it moves without emotion. The silver tie man studied me carefully. Then he smiled. "Good," he said softly. "Your memory is returning." Melkor immediately stepped in front of Leora and me. "You shouldn't be here, Sevratin." So that was his name. Sevratin Vale. Even hearing it made something inside my mind tighten painfully. Sevratin ignored him completely. His eyes remained fixed on me. "You caused a very expensive problem, Orvian." "I don't even know what you're talking about." "That's true," he admitted calmly. "For a while, we believed the neurological damage protected us." Leora squeezed my hand tighter. "You need to leave," she told him. Sevratin looked toward her with mild amusement. "You became difficult to monitor after the accident. That disappointed several people. You tried to kill him." "We tried to protect the organization." The calmness in his voice disturbed me more than shouting would have. That is another dangerous thing about power without morality. People begin treating human lives like logistical inconveniences, instead of emotional realities. Sevratin stepped farther into the garage. Rain echoed faintly above us through the house vents. "You discovered the transfer system 14 months ago," he said to me. "You were never supposed to access the internal routing architecture." Fragments returned again. Late nights at the office, hidden files, numbers that did not make sense, energy projects that existed only on paper, billions disappearing through empty companies. "You copied evidence," Sevratin continued. "Then you hid it before we could recover it." "I don't remember where." "We know." His eyes narrowed slightly. "But memory is unpredictable. Trauma sometimes delays recall instead of destroying it." Melkor spoke coldly. "You should leave before this becomes worse." Sevratin smiled faintly. "You still think you're rescuing people?" "I'm trying to stop you." "No," Sevratin replied. "You're trying to correct your conscience." For a second, silence filled the room again. Then I understood something. Melkor had not simply discovered corruption. He had once participated in it. "You worked for them willingly?" I said slowly. Melkor looked at me without denying it. "I built security systems for Helixera. I believed the organization only manipulated contracts and political negotiations. By the time I understood the scale of it, people were already disappearing." Leora stepped closer to me. "He's the reason we survived after the crash." Sevratin sighed quietly. "And this is why emotional attachment ruins operational discipline." I looked directly at him. "You speak like people are machines. Most systems work better when emotions are removed." "No," I said. "Systems become dangerous when empathy disappears." For the first time, his smile faded slightly. Good. I wanted him uncomfortable. Outside, lightning flashed through the narrow garage windows. The white light reflected across the armored vehicle behind us. Sevratin noticed it immediately. "You plan to leave?" "We plan to survive," Leora answered. His gaze moved back toward me. "You still don't understand the real problem, Orvian." "And what problem is that?" "You." My pulse slowed strangely, not from calmness, from focus. "When intelligent people discover corruption," Sevratin continued, "they usually choose self-preservation. They negotiate. They disappear quietly, but you started documenting everything. More memories surfaced. Encrypted drives, voice recordings, late-night audit files. Fear. I remembered fear. Not for myself. For Leora. "You threatened her," I whispered. Sevratin tilted his head slightly. "You were becoming unstable after the discovery." Emotional leverage was efficient. Leora's eyes filled with tears immediately. That answered everything. The distance. The secrecy. The sleepless nights. She had been terrified. Not unfaithful. I suddenly felt ashamed. Every accusation, every suspicious thought, every moment I assumed betrayal instead of fear. That is how paranoia destroys relationships. When communication disappears, imagination fills the silence with poison. I looked toward Leora slowly. I'm sorry. Her face collapsed emotionally. You were supposed to hate me, she whispered. I almost did. I couldn't tell you the truth safely. I know. Those 2 words seemed to break something inside her. She started crying silently. Not dramatically, just exhausted tears from carrying fear too long alone. Sevratin watched us both with visible disappointment. Human attachment, he said quietly. Always inefficient. No, Maelkor replied. It's the only reason people survive things like you. Suddenly, one of the garage monitors flickered again. A loading screen appeared. Then a hidden file opened automatically. Access recovery complete. Everyone froze. I stared at the screen. A location appeared. Not an office. Not a bank. A lake house. My lake house. The property I inherited from my mother years ago. The archive location. Memory rushed back instantly. I remembered hiding the drive beneath the floor panels near the fireplace after discovering the corruption network. I remembered telling myself, if anything happens to me, the truth survives. Sevratin saw recognition appear on my face. There it is, he said softly. I knew your memory would recover eventually. Maelkor moved immediately. We're leaving now. But Sevratin's men blocked the garage exit. Tension exploded across the room. No one moved. Then Leora stepped forward unexpectedly. You're not getting the archive. Sevratin looked mildly curious. And how exactly will you stop me? She lifted her phone. My communication dead man switch activated 20 minutes ago. For the first time, Sevratin's expression changed. If Orvian's biometric stress levels remained elevated, she continued, encrypted copies of the financial records were automatically released to investigative journalists and international authorities. Silence. Then one of Sevratin's men whispered, She's bluffing. No, Maelkor said quietly. She isn't. Sevratin stared at Leora carefully now. Not emotionally, strategically. He was calculating damage. Finally, he asked, How much was released? Leora wiped her tears away. Enough. The garage became completely silent except for the storm outside. Then something unexpected happened. Sevratin smiled. Not arrogantly, almost respectfully. You were smarter than we estimated. And you underestimated how far people go to protect the ones they love, she answered. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then Sevratin looked toward me one final time. You could have become very powerful inside our structure. I'd rather sleep peacefully. That becomes difficult after learning how the world functions. Maybe, I said. But at least I'll still recognize myself. Another long silence followed. Then Sevratin slowly adjusted his silver tie clip. We're leaving. His men looked confused. Sir, we lost. And just like that, the tension broke. Not through violence, not through revenge, through exposure. That is something many people forget. Truth becomes dangerous to corrupt systems because secrecy is their oxygen. Sevratin and the others entered the elevator again without another word. The doors closed. Then they were gone. None of us moved for several seconds afterward. Rain continued falling outside. Soft now. Almost peaceful. Leora finally turned toward me fully. I thought I was protecting you, she whispered. You were. I should have trusted you more. And I should have asked questions before building stories in my head. She laughed weakly through tears. That sounds like something I teach my clients. I smiled for the first time in weeks. Maybe you should start charging yourself. That made her cry harder while laughing softly at the same time. I wrapped my arms around her carefully. This time she did not pull away. Hours later, the storm finally ended. The police investigations began the next morning. International inquiries followed. Helixara Consortium collapsed publicly. Within months after multiple financial crimes became exposed, Maelkor disappeared before sunrise. He left only one message on the garage workstation. Some mistakes cannot be erased, only outgrown. I still think about that sentence. Because the real danger was never only corruption, it was silence. Silence between spouses, silence inside fear, silence inside assumptions,